So welcome everyone. So excited you all decided to join me on a Sunday. I'm currently in Colorado Springs and we have about 8 inches of snow on the ground. We had a snowstorm this weekend. So I am glad to be inside. So welcome. There's still people coming into the room. So I'm just going to admit them and do a little bit of housekeeping as you guys all get joined in. Such a beautiful group here. I see some faces that I know, some faces that are new to me, and for all of you who are new to me, welcome. I'm excited to introduce myself to you for the first time and give you some very tangible support today. So as we're getting going, I want to just let you guys know, if you're new to Zoom, there are different views. So if you're on a computer, there's a little button in the upper hand corner where you can kind of switch the view. So if it gets distracting to see too many voices, you can switch the view and make it more pleasing for your viewing. If you're on an iPhone or an iPad or some type of smartphone, just make sure you swipe. You'll like swipe the screen one direction or the other, and it will give you control, so you can kind of change the view and how you're looking at me or interacting with the material today. While people are joining in, I am going to share links to the masterclass handouts. I'm going to go ahead and drop those in the chat box right now. So if you guys, it looks a little cluttered, so I'm going to actually send them one at a time here. But if you didn't already download them, you certainly do not have to print them out, but it absolutely could help if you're somebody who, like me, likes to take notes as I'm listening. So feel free, if you haven't already downloaded them, I'm dropping them in the chat box now, and that will give you access to at least seeing the visual now or later. So if you are on a smart device, go ahead and just copy those links and put them in a notepad in your computer so you can access them later. But they are in the email. So leading up to the call, as you guys were joining and getting the link, the Zoom link that brought you here, there also should be links to these documents in your email. So you shouldn't not have access, but of course, if you need to take some notes today, take the time right now to grab a refreshing beverage, get your notepad out, get a nice pen that has enough ink to take notes today, should you like to. So it looks like we're getting a few more joiners. So I see Debbie joined us, Victoria, we have Valerie. As comments come through, and again, I would encourage you to use the chat to just ask or engage with me during the session today. I have actually, I'm really excited. I actually have a dear friend of mine here with me today, and I'm going to have her unmute in just a second to introduce you to her. But my friend Tammy texted me. Her and I are both intuitive eating counselors. She and I I consider one of my closest friends, and we talk about all of the stuff I'm going to share with you today on like a daily basis. Tammy offered to be a kind of a moderator for me today. So you might see her name in the chat box responding to messages, because as I'm presenting today, I might not be able to follow the chat as closely as I would normally like to. So Tammy is going to be taking some notes, and then she'll be I guess interjecting, if you will, as needed. If there's a question that's really important that needs to be addressed like immediately, Tammy will be kind of letting me know. We have a method of communication, so she can let me know if something needs to be answered right away, or if it's a question that can be held until the end of the presentation. Does that sound good? Can I just get a thumbs up from everybody? So Tammy, would you unmute yourself for just a brief second? Tammy Lance is her name. Say hello, Tammy.
Hi, everybody. I'm definitely going to keep this short because I have two pups in the background that decided to start barking. And once one of them goes, they both start going. So I'm happy to be here. I'm coming from Niceville, Florida area, and it's actually very nice here today. So, but I do miss the snow. I do miss the snow. That's fun to think about. I'm really looking forward to this, and I'm going to do my best to keep up with all the questions. So
yes,
look forward to it. Thank you.
Thanks, Tammy. And Tammy is awesome. She's amazing. We have a very similar philosophy in how we work with our clients. And I'm just really blessed to have her here with me today. So let's go ahead and get started. You guys ready? Go ahead and tell me in the chat box if you're ready to get going here today. Yeah, just say, hey, yes, I'm ready to rock. We've got quite a few people here. We have 28 people. Yay. All right. Minnie says ready. Shalandra says yes. Victoria, yay. Gail, yes. Okay, yay. Okay, awesome. You guys are participatory. You got access to the chat box, so use that as you need to. Make comments, ask questions, and we're going to go ahead and get started. Once again, some of you are new to me. Some of you are faces that I've seen before, maybe even are working with currently. I want to just welcome you very warmly, embrace you, and hug you in this virtual way to say thank you for being here. As some of you know, some of you don't, I'm a registered dietitian. I've been doing this work for coming up on 16 years now. I'm a trained intuitive eating counselor, a yoga instructor, and I have a master's degree in functional medicine. So I don't tell you this to brag to you. That is not my MO, but I share this with you to know that if you are new to me, especially, I'm not just coming to you as and sharing information that's completely from left field. This is my passion. The work that I do is I feel like my soul's work on many levels, and all the education that I've gotten is just to make me better and help me understand how to help women our topic today is to stop overeating and overcome the fear of weight gain, but the reality is it's really to help women heal their relationship to food and body. We live in a very, very deeply entrenched diet culture, and I'm going to share a little bit more about that today. But I think my purpose is to help women see that first and foremost, and then work out of it so that we can have total food and body freedom. Okay. So if you're somebody who wants to have food and body freedom, please drop a yes, please in the chat box. I want to hear if you guys are ready for food and body freedom. You're ready to escape the trap of diet culture and learn more about how to do this today. Yes. Okay. So Minnie says yes. Mary says yes. Okay. Wonderful. Just want to make sure you are in the right place to do this today. And pending any technology issues, of course, if something happens today and the snowstorm gets in the way and everything drops off, I will be recording this and sending the recording out after the fact. Okay. So if you are just joining, or if something happens for you too, and you drop off for whatever reason, you can always catch the recording. I'll probably send that out tomorrow. Okay. So wonderful. Lots of yeses here. Great. Okay. So you might be wondering, like, well, how did Beth get into this work? And, the journey started actually as a dietitian. I started my journey in this profession as a nutrition professional, actually feeding diet culture, not only to my clients, but also to myself. And this journey led me to a very disordered relationship with food. My weight went up and down. I'm guessing had I had the opportunity to talk to a psychologist, I would have been classified with an eating disorder. And it had such a stronghold on me. And when I was introduced to the methods that I'm going to share with you today, it completely changed my life. I went from constantly obsessing about food and body, worrying about the number on the scale, which usually pretty much ruined my day, to having complete freedom around food and feeling literally zero anxiety around food choices, but also maintaining some of the best health that I've ever had in my life. When I was counting and restricting and exercising like a mad person, I was less healthy than I am today, where I've learned how to honor my body. So if we need some, let me know in the chat box if you guys do not have the worksheets. I will copy and paste. We have had a few people join, so I'm going to copy and paste those again into the chat box so you guys can have access to them. They also should be linked in the email that got you here today. So in the Zoom email that was sent out yesterday and also an hour prior to the call. So I'm posting those in there again today. Feel free. If you can't get them uploaded or printed right now, don't worry. Just grab a notepad. You'll be fine. Okay, that sound good? So looks like, okay, Tammy said we have been able to open the links. Okay, we have a couple of people added here. So Tammy, is it cool if anybody needs those links, you can copy and paste those again for me? It looks like we have one other person joining at this moment in time. Okay. So, and then in response to this work, so really changed my life, as I as I already said, and now I'm really on a mission to help support other women change their lives. It changed my complete practice as a dietitian too. Instead of helping women, hit goals, lose weight, do all these things that kind of force their body into this small, tiny little container, what I do to help women is help liberate them from the chains of diet culture and embrace something called their intuitive eater. Okay. And this is something that everyone in this room was born with, but many of you have lost over time due to the influence of society, loved ones who, with good intention, wanted you to be healthy. So they put you on restrictive diets. I had some comments in my Facebook group yesterday, a few, like it was like a little thread of women saying, yeah, my mom put me on a diet when I was 10 and I've been dieting ever since. So if that's something that you relate to, just know that this is not an uncommon thing. And it was done from a place of love for sure. But as we learn about the influences of diet culture on our behaviors and our mental, emotional well being, we can start to break those chains and um, overcome overeating and that fear of what's going to happen with our weight when we do by embracing these concepts. Does that sound good? Thumbs up? Yeah. Yay. Okay. I just want to flip through. I see so many beautiful faces here. So, the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to share my screen for just a brief minute. I want to make sure that you guys are all with me with the handout. So, I'm going to start. Can you guys see my screen okay? I'm just going to leave this up for a second. But the three handouts you should get, we're going to start with this handout here. The topping or the header says reprogramming your relationship with food and body to stop overeating and overcome that fear of weight gain. You're going to see this little Venn diagram, and I'm going to pull that apart and help you understand how each component of this Venn diagram helps you to solve this problem. Okay, so that's where we're going to start today. And then I'm going to talk about some tangible tools that you can use, including the Food, Mood, and Lifestyle Journal and the Hungry Discover Scale Journal that have been linked in the chat box. Okay, so these are typically tools that I reserve for my private clients, but I wanted to create a very enriching experience for you today. And I felt like these tools could really help you launch in the direction of what you need to solve this problem for yourself. So just note, we will be talking about all these things, but if you want something in front of you at this moment in time, please pull out this handout here. And I tried to leave some white space around the edges so that you can make your own notes as I get going. Does that sound good? So everybody in the chat box, please go ahead and say, got the handouts or ready to go or something of that nature, and I will move forward. Okay, so Tammy says these tools are amazing, life changing. Well, of course you do, Tammy. We do the same work here. so, um, but I would say my clients have the same experience. When we use these tools, it's amazing to see the breakthroughs. I was just on the phone with a client right before this call, and I was talking to her about her experience with the work that we do in my group program, Peace with Food and Soul. And she's like, it's changing my life. She's like amazed at the progress she's had in the month and a half she's been in. And I mean, it just warms my heart and soul, not out of a place of ego, but out of a place of holy cow, like this is so important that women know this stuff, right? It's so important that all of you here have access to this information. Now you'll see behind me, you'll see this whiteboard, and I know you can't read it very well. Okay. Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. See some people like putting their head close to the camera. I get it. I put it there just as kind of a visual. We're going to go through just to keep structure, right? All of us like a little bit of structure. And I had my little lights on to so you could see my face better, and it created even a bigger glare on here. And I'm like, well, I didn't test this out very well, did I? So you guys don't worry about what's on this board so much. This is just a framework. So I'm going to read it to you and then we're going to go through it. Does that sound good? Yeah. Okay. So don't worry about writing this down in great detail. But the first thing we're going to talk about today is why reprogramming your relationship to food and body is the way. Okay. Is the way to overcome your overeating tendencies and free yourself of that fear of weight gain. Okay, that's the first thing we're going to talk about. The second thing we're going to go into is how giving yourself unconditional permission to eat, okay, and honoring your hunger, which is where those tools come in, end overeating and stabilize your weight. Okay, that's number two. And then the last thing we're going to briefly cover is how this reprogramming process actually saves women time and money. That comes up a lot. People are like, oh my gosh, there's so much here. How am I going to learn it all? And I'm telling you right now, It's going to save you time and money. I'll go into that in more detail in just a moment. But that's just a preview of what we're going to cover. We're probably going to spend a lot of time in that first section because it relates to that beautiful Venn diagram that I created. Okay. Okay. We still got people joining us. So thank you, Tammy, for helping me out if they have any questions as they're getting in. Okay. So I see everyone's got the handouts. Wonderful. And like I said, if you guys just joined, Tammy, my dear, dear friend, if you missed her introduction, she is here helping me moderate the comments. So please ask questions as I'm talking. Please, engage. If something resonates for you, please tell us in the chat box if that resonates for you. Let us know if you have any questions. I want you guys to get something out of today. You are taking time out of your lives to be here with me right now, which I deeply honor and appreciate. So I want you to go away with some tangible tools you can actually use. So if you're not getting that or you need some clarity or anything like that, please, please let us know in the chat box. And Tammy will be moderating those and she will be interrupting me if I need to, go into some better clarity around anything. Okay, sound good? So let's jump into Epiphany 1. Epiphany 1, we're talking about why reprogramming your relationship to food and body. Okay, what is reprogramming? You guys can type this in the chat box. What is reprogramming? Reprogramming, when you guys hear that word, when you think of computers, what do you think of? Okay, I see new mindset, change the way you do something. Okay, relearning, I like that. Reset a new route. Yes, reprogramming. Oh, I think someone tried to unmute. All right. So anyway, lots of good ideas here. So I mean, there's not really a right or wrong here. Changing the normal programmer way. Thank you, Tammy. She wrote out Epiphany 1 here in the chat for y'all. Thank you, girl. That's really helpful. So reprogramming is a set of relearning. Okay, it's a relearning process. As I indicated right at the beginning of the conversation, all of you were born with body wisdom to know what and how much food to eat to keep your body healthy. Do you guys believe that? Do you believe that? Do you believe that you were born a child who knew how to honor her hunger, honor her fullness, and take care of her body with food and with, all the other ways that we practice self-care? Yes, no, maybe. It's okay if you don't agree with me right now, but I will adamantly tell you that I truly believe that. I have a young daughter myself and I witness it every day. And my goal in life is to make sure that she maintains that intuitive eating core center for the rest of her life. Yes, they shake their head when done. Yeah, they know. But I believe truly that reprogramming is us accessing, getting back to that place and with the skill set that you were born with. Okay. You have the capacity to reprogram your relationship with food so that you can exit that space where you're food confusion, food obsession, worried about overeating, feeling like the scale indicates your worth on any level. Like we can retrain the brain and retrain your body to start accessing that wisdom. So many of us, okay, including myself, we live in our head. Okay, I was going to say brain and head at the same time. We live in our heads, don't we? Right? We live in our heads. We have a lot of logical ideas about how things should be, and we have lost the art of regaining connection to our body. Okay. And let me know in the chat if you believe that there is a lot of wisdom, not only in our logical thinking brain, but also in our body. Okay. Let me know in the chat if you agree with that. If we've, or let me know if you feel like you do know how to access that wisdom in your body or you don't. Okay. I'd be curious. Do you believe that there is wisdom in your body? Not just your logical brain. So this is the knowing like what to eat and how many calories and carbs. Do you believe that your body has intelligence that can be accessed to help guide you? Okay, so I see some yeses. Wonderful. Okay, and if you don't believe it, I want to know. Like this is why we're here. Okay, so when you guys pull out this Venn diagram, you'll witness that I have these three different areas. Okay, I have, and I'll just pull it up. I'll share the screen with you again. I don't want to jumble the screens too much, but I want to share with you the screen one more time so you can see it. I'll try to make it a little bigger. Okay. So we have intuitive eating, and a lot of you who are already on my Facebook group, we're talking about intuitive eating, mindful eating every single day. And there's a lot of things that logically stick to our brain within the intuitive eating model. Like, oh, that makes sense. I would listen to my body and I would eat when I'm hungry and stop when I'm full. And, I'd ask myself, am I hungry? And some of the other things. I would honor my hunger and this, that, and the other. All makes sense, right? Like, yeah, like escape diet culture, reject diet culture. That seems cool. Like have food freedom, get to eat what I want. Like all of this is super cool. Okay, Francine, I will get to that. The fact that you think your intuition is long gone, it's not. It's there, I promise you. But intuitive eating in general is a beautiful model, okay? And it gives us access to this new information about diet culture so we can begin to shed the layers, reject the influence it's had on us, and start to activate those intuitive signals in our body that tell us how much to eat, what to eat, so on and so forth. Okay. But what I find is that so often someone will pick up the intuitive eating book and they'll get it logically, makes sense. But the actual application of intuitive eating to help them with their quote unquote overeating tendencies or this fear that they have around gaining weight with this new philosophy, it just doesn't stick. Okay. It just doesn't stick. It's almost, and I've heard women say that they use intuitive eating, quote unquote, like a diet. It's a new set of rules. And if you've been living in a time when rules dictate how much you eat, when you eat, this, that, and the other, and maybe even other areas of your life, it wouldn't, it would make sense to me that you could use the rules of intuitive eating as yet another thing that you have to do or have to follow, right? So, in the work of reprogramming, intuitive eating being at the core, a core part of it, we also want to look at our identity. And I'm going to dive deeper into this. Our identity. Who are you, the eater? Who are you being as an eater? And also looking at nervous system and emotional regulation. For those of you who consider yourselves an emotional overeater, this nervous system stuff is going to blow your mind. Okay. So, regulation of our nervous system, which so many of us don't have access to, and that's why it's hard to be an intuitive eater, can make this work especially hard. Okay. Especially hard. So, if you feel like, gosh, I've been trying this intuitive eating, but it hasn't been like sticking, nervous system and identity work are two components that are going to help you bridge those gaps. And you can see this white circle here of mindfulness. Mindfulness is just an encompassing way that we cultivate awareness and helps us access these things long term. So mindfulness is kind of crossing over all circles of the Venn diagram to help you understand that it's a component of each of them. Awareness and self compassion. You're gonna hear me say that whether you hang out in the Facebook group, whether you're here on this call today. Awareness and self compassion are two core things that every woman in this room is going to need to cultivate in order to make this work. Okay, is that fair? Awareness and self compassion. If you get nothing out of today's conversation and you can hear that when you are trying to find a resolution to your issues, awareness and self compassion are two things that without you cannot access that freedom. Okay, so I'm going to stop my share. Is that okay with everyone? Okay. Okay, cool. All right, so I'm just checking the comments to make sure I don't have anything come in. Okay, and access the time too. This training might be close to 90 minutes. I want to make sure that there's some room for questions. So I'm going to keep on plugging forward. So let's start with the intuitive eating bubble. Intuitive eating is a framework that was created by Evelyn Tribole and Elise Resch. Many of you have their books, their workbooks, et cetera, and so forth. And through that book, you can follow 10 principles of intuitive eating. And when we're looking at this tendency, right, this overeating tendency or this fear that we're going to gain weight if we kind of change direction and we come off of the diet, intuitive eating really starts to plant the seeds of change. And the first step on this path of intuitive eating, if you're not familiar, is recognizing diet culture and then working actively to reject it. Okay. What is diet culture? Tell me in the chat box what diet culture is, what you know it is, at least in your experience, and I'll define it as well. But I want to hear kind of what you guys think about diet culture. But diet culture, generally speaking, and I'll just wait for comments to, yeah, what is diet culture to you? A cult. That's funny. Yeah, and it's, I want to say that diet culture was actually created with the intention to help and not hurt. Okay. It was created from very well intentioned doctors, nutritionists, etc., to really help a person be healthy. These rules weren't created to become a space of obsession within our brain. They were created on a good terms, but what they became is a an activation of guilt. It's a guilt and shame cycle. Like we go on a diet, we feel the hope and excitement, we follow it for a while. We have to exercise this idea of willpower in order to follow the rules, right? And then inevitably, willpower runs out because willpower is a finite resource. Write that down. Willpower is a finite resource and it does not last. That's why the cookies and the brownies come back into the picture because willpower doesn't last. Okay. And the actual deprivation, when you deprive yourself of foods on both a psychological and a physical level, okay, this is all research based, evidence based information. Okay, you guys, on a psychological and a physical level, deprivation leads to overeating. Okay. That is huge. Huge, huge, huge. And this is all part of the intuitive eating framework. Okay. And some great things here. Medical focus instead of health focus. So true. Okay. Good, good, good. So you guys keep on following the chat. I can't keep up with it, but we got Tammy in there to help out. So this first step is to recognize all of these flashy fads, all of these things that are, they're trying to do good. I used to be a weight loss dietitian, for God's sakes. Like I promoted this stuff, right? I dabbled in Whole30 and paleo, and they have some merit, right? If you look at the nutrient density of some of these diets, but the reality is that the restriction of them and this like labeling of our morality, like we're good if we follow the diet. Who has ever felt this way? I'm good today because I stayed on track with my calories. I'm not good today because I ate the carbs. I'm good today because I did my exercise. I'm bad today because I was lazy and I just wanted to watch Netflix, right? Yes, yes. Okay, thank you for the chat, you guys coming in there. This is a product of diet culture. Okay, there's nothing wrong with you. You have not failed the diet. Diet culture has failed you. Again, write that one down. You have not failed the diet. Diet culture has failed you. It was set up. In fact, there are several studies that I could quote to you guys, and there's some inside the intuitive eating book as well, that dieting actually leads to weight gain. Okay, so those who yo-yo with their weight, or their weight is unstable because they're always jumping from diet to diet, that is actually a higher predictor of weight gain than anything else. So knowing this, knowing that diet culture is part of your overeating and any concerns or fears you have over weight, don't you just want to say and give it the middle finger, right? So that's the first step, is giving diet culture the middle finger. Okay. And if you don't like the middle finger analogy, give it whatever you need to actively dismiss and know that it has done you more harm than good. Even if your mom was the one who put you on a diet when you were 10 years old, okay, she was just doing the best thing she knew how to do because she was influenced by diet culture too. Diet culture's roots go back hundreds of years. Okay. And they're rooted in racism. They're rooted in bias. And if you want to read more about that, there's this great book. Tammy will drop it in the chat. It's called my God, my brain just lost it. Fearing the Black Body by Sabrina something. So Tammy, if you don't mind, you can drop a link to that book. Talks about the roots of diet culture. Really, really, really deep. Lots of stuff that will probably make you want to just go punch a punching bag to get the aggression out. But diets are actually a cause of weight gain. So if you fear that intuitive eating, this journey of reprogramming your relationship to food and body, oh, I'm going to gain weight. Here's the reality, you guys. The diet culture is going to have more influence over your health, not just weight. I'm talking about higher rates of high blood pressure, diabetes, chronic illness, etc. It has more of an influence there than this practice, for sure. For sure, 100% evidence-based, research-based statement I just made. Okay. Some people on the intuitive eating journey, their body does change. There's not a guarantee that you're going to lose weight, never. And if somebody is out there on the internet preaching that intuitive eating is their new weight loss tool or diet, unfollow them, unsubscribe, because in an intuitive eating journey, we're not only reconnecting to our inner health, but we're also connecting to our body and starting to accept it for whatever it needs to do to be healthy. And that could look like weight loss, that could look like weight stabilization, and that could look for some like weight gain. And in part of the intuitive eating journey, we actually throw out the scale because we recognize how much power the scale has over our day to day attitudes and our day to day beliefs about ourselves. If you have stepped on the scale and it has caused the rest of your day to go not so well, please indicate in the chat right now. Let me know if you have been triggered or felt less than because of the number, okay? The number. So one action step you can take today in rejecting diet culture, which will help you solve these issues. Yep, mood driven by the scale. Yes. Okay. So I see some of you commenting here, is to ditch the scale. It's scary. I have all of my clients do it and they don't love it, especially at first. Some are excited about it actually, because they know the power it has over them. But just know that this is an active step of rejecting diet culture, so that we can start to align and get into our bodies again. Okay. So what we have to reveal is, and if you're somebody who's feeling to yourself, gosh, but I'm still scared, Beth. I'm still scared. Are you still scared? Let me know in the chat. I'm still scared. You have been subjected to this idea that a thinner body is a better body for years, decades, even your whole life. Okay. It's hard to unravel that and just dismiss it like that. I get that. But we can start to access that by beginning to realize, okay, friends, all of you, you're not alone. You're not alone. We start this path by revealing, what do you truly want? What's the end result? If you lost whatever goal number of pounds that you think you need to lose to be quote unquote healthy, to be loved, to be accepted, what is it truly underneath that you actually want? Feel free to type it in the chat box if you want. But is it weight loss, or is it a deeper connection to yourself? Is it a smaller body, or is it safety? Safety in your body. And releasing this idea that it's not safe to take up space, physical and mental, emotional. Okay. Is it a pant size, or is it a deeper sense of self-love and self-worth? Okay, these are just philosophical questions just to get your brain churning. But what happens when you lose the 20 pounds? And how can you start to access that now? And I see judgment coming into the chat box. And you guys, this runs deep, because there is this idea, not an idea. There is this real thing that's happening in the country, and it has been for hundreds of years now, and it's called weight stigma or fat phobia. We live in a culture that worships a smaller body and demonizes a larger body. And that is so far from the truth. We know that research is showing now, through Healthy at Every Size, #Haze, that our health is not a number. It's not a BMI. It's not a number. Our health comes from within. It is so much more than a number. Yet we have been and I'm on a soapbox right now, I get that. But we have been really, really plagued by this whole idea that our body size somehow indicates our health, and it does not. We should be looking at other things. And when we reconnect to our body, and we do this through identity work and nervous system reprogramming, which we're getting to, we can start to access this wisdom, and our bodies and our health increases, whether or not the scale goes this direction or that. Yes, Tammy says, our health is not a number, it comes from within. Yeah. Yes, fat shame for 60 years now. I mean, it's real. So if we can actively see it, we can start to overcome it. Okay. So awareness is definitely a huge part of this process. Yes, accepting my new body after a baby. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So much changes with our bodies after we've had children, our bared children. And God, what a beautiful gift to bring life into this world. And yet So many women feel so much shame after the fact, and that's not okay. And I want you to actively say, enough is enough, right? So tell me in the chat, is enough enough? So we're in this path on the intuitive eating journey where we know that the weight cycling causes more harm than good. And we know that the temporary weight loss that you get from one of those fad programs will never, ever give you food and body freedom. It will never, ever help you love yourself deeper. It'll never, ever give you peace with food. It'll never, ever make you healthier, even though it says it will. Okay. So many clients are able to lose weight through calorie deprivation, but almost always 95% of those who do regain it. Right. So wouldn't you rather just have peace with your body, activate your self-love? Isn't that more profound and deeper for your life? I feel really poorly when I go to the doc and the reports labels me as morbidly obese. Yes, I hear you, I see you, I feel you. Okay, I'm going to try not to use names, especially for the recording here, but the person who made that statement, I see it. Okay, I see you, and you are not alone. You are unfortunately a victim of a fat phobic medical system as well. Okay. It's a blanket statement. I know all doctors are not fat phobic, but a lot of times, I heard stories of someone going into the doctor for a sore throat and they need antibiotics for strep and they go out with a prescription to lose weight. I mean, come on, you guys. Like, this is messed up, right? And some of you may have had similar experiences. Okay. So Tammy's taking some questions down. Um, if there's anything else. Yeah, lots of sadness. Yeah, and it is like when we get exposed to this and we realize that this is the truth of our society, it sucks, right? But let me offer something to you that really helped me, and that was when somebody told me. They said, you know, things don't happen to you. That's victim mentality, which I get. I go there. Things don't happen to you. Things happen for you. Things don't happen to you, things happen for you. And you're here in this space today because you're ready for a new way. You're ready to overcome your overeating. You're ready to overcome your fear of weight gain for sure. But you're ready for a new relationship with your body. You're ready for a new relationship with food. If I'm wrong, I mean, feel free to leave and go about your day. But I assume after working with so many women that this is really hard to hear, that diet culture's had this influence on you. And sometimes it makes us sad. So I want you to just to feel in your body where that sadness resides. Okay. Is it in your heart? Is it in your belly? Is it somewhere else? But our emotions, energy and emotion, right? Do you like that? I love that. Energy and motion is felt in our whole body, not just in our mind. And that's where reconnecting, taking the logical and connecting it to the wisdom of the body is a part of this reprogramming process. Yeah, tearful. Yeah. So I mean, cry, you guys, grab some tissues. I don't want to make anybody make anybody overly sad, but here's the this is happening for you. So you're here on this planet right now because you're ready for more and you can access more. I don't care of your current of your current body size, of your current anything, okay, and what led you here, but you do have access to overcome this, okay? Okay, so we've got somebody who needs to get in. Okay, thank you. All right, so thank you, Tammy. All right, so mini fine, I just want you to open your mind to this, and I know it might not be accessible at this moment in time, but I want you to ask yourself if you can access this idea that finding neutrality with your weight. So kind of like putting weight aside as kind of the main indicator of your success could be a path to food and body freedom. It could be a more rewarding. And I will tell you, after working with hundreds of women, those who are able to, and it's okay if you still are thinking about weight, but just to put it over here, right? Just put it over on the side for just a little bit, right? And focus on other health behaviors and things that get you into that space of loving yourself, more deeply accepting yourself, and tuning in to what you're here on this planet to do, even your deeper purpose. Okay. Because all that time we spend thinking about weight and body and calories and deprivation, it has taken up way too much of your life up until now. And the only way that we can truly be free is to set it aside and focus on something new. Right. So let me know if that resonates with you, if that makes sense. Okay. Um, okay. So, and I got this from Tammy, actually, our moderator today, but she was working with a client and she said when she was working with someone and for a long time working together, they weren't able to kind of remove weight as that indicator of success, right? And I get that. We hold compassionate space for everyone who comes on this journey. But when this client was ready to put it aside, she literally said, it is weight off of their shoulders, right? We don't just carry physical weight on our body, we also carry a lot of emotional baggage and weight. Do we not? Yes. Do we not? Okay, we carry a lot of emotional weight. And part of this work in reprogramming is not only lifting that emotional weight first. Okay, because none of you deserve to feel less than because of your body size, a number on the scale, so on and so forth. I truly want everyone in this room to be their healthiest, most vibrant person. Okay. I want you to activate health and we can use food as medicine. Like I believe that, but we can't access food as medicine until we have given ourselves our own medicine of coming into connection with our body. Okay. So that's where identity work comes in. So as you're moving from the intuitive eating bubble on your worksheet, we're moving to the identity bubble. And I am keeping an eye on the time. Don't worry, I'll get through everything. So identity work is new to so many people. Identity work or subconscious reprogramming is something that has literally changed my life because so many women on this journey who want to be intuitive eaters miss that their identity actually has to change for their whole lives to change, for the intuitive eating lessons that we learn in the book to actually become, notice emphasis on the word become the intuitive eater, the being doing the doing. So I want you to ask yourselves, and again, I don't mean to make anyone cry because I want this to be more empowering than deflating. Okay. But I recognize, if you do have trauma, if you do have, a long, just, relationship with food that's been, ugh, some of this identity work can be a little jarring. And I want to remind you of the phrase, things are happening for you, not to you. Okay. And when we look at our identity, that's the old programming that's been running under the surface, likely was created in the first 8 years of your life. They say that our subconscious was is built by age 8. Okay, a lot of the subconscious behaviors and beliefs that we have, and we're still running on those beliefs as adults. If we don't look at those and shift those, it's sometimes hard to access the intuitive eating philosophy and become the intuitive eater. So I want you to ask yourself, are you running on programming where there's dialogue and it's probably under the surface that's like, well, my entire family is sick, therefore I'll probably be sick. Or, I give up a lot when things get hard for me. Or, I am somebody who nurtures and takes care of others before I take care of myself. These are just some example identities that can come into the picture. Okay. They can come in and really affect our behavior and our follow through when we're trying to access this intuitive eating philosophy. Does this make sense? Please let me know. Crying is healing, no worries. Okay, good. Oh, yes. I focus on a daily goal instead. That's awesome. Okay, beautiful, 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 beautiful. Um, and I know you guys are commenting. I can't catch everything in the chat, but thank you guys for keep on going. And Tammy's kind of watching out and making sure that there's stuff there that needs access. We can access it for you. So I want you to ask yourself in this moment, and maybe make some notes on your paper if you have it. Who do you want to be ultimately? So if we just kind of set weight to the side, how do you want to show up in the world, right? How do you want to show up in the world? Who do you want to be in your life? And really, does a smaller body translate to a healthier, happier body, or does it truly give you what you want in your life? Does changing your external body change your internal beliefs and your mindset? I don't know how many women I've talked to will tell me, I lost the 50 pounds and, it was great, but I still wasn't happy, right? I still felt like, okay, I've seen some hands raised. Yeah. And that's what matters, isn't it? Who is the being doing the doing? Is she a rule follower or is she a rule breaker? Right. And there's some core foundation. I don't have time today to go into it, But, the identity of somebody who becomes an intuitive eater is somebody who stays in integrity with their intentions, right? Is somebody who recognizes self-compassion as as part of this path. It's someone who's open to healing on different levels that are not just external. Okay. The identity of someone who can reprogram their relationship with food, which ultimately helps them overcome the overeating cycle and this fear of weight gain, is someone who says, enough. I'm ready for a new way. Okay. There's a lot of work. I could probably do a whole talk on identity. And if you're in my Facebook group, you can actually go to the guides and you can find a whole thing I did on identity in there. So if this kind of activates some curiosity, please, go to the guide section and look for it. Ping me if you can't find it. But there's this whole deeper layers of identity work that I could go into. But for the sake of time, I want to move on to the nervous system, emotional regulation section of that Venn diagram. And this comes into play. Oh my God, this stuff like makes me geek out. I'm a science person. And I just want you to write down this. This work is deeper than just food, right? A lot of my clients love when I tell them this too. How we do food is how we do life. How we do food is how we do life. And if you feel like you have been struggling for a long time with food and you've tried the intuitive eating journey maybe more than once, the reality here is that, again, diet culture is failing you, not the other way around, but it's quite possible that your nervous system is dysregulated. Okay. We have two components, two sides to our nervous system, actually three. We have the sympathetic side, which is related to fight or flight. It's when danger, impending danger, whether it's just psychological or actually like a bear is chasing us, our sympathetic drive is necessary. And a lot of us need that to get away from danger. A traffic accident, whoa, we have to swerve. Your sympathetic drive is meant for survival. Okay. However, so many of us, and I will raise my hand to this, kind of hang out. Our nervous system, because it's there so often, we kind of are perpetually there. We're constantly in fight or flight. We're constantly trying to engage and put out fires and wear 3,000 different hats because as women, that's what we do, right? And we're so in overdrive that we can't sense our hunger cues. So when someone says to me, I overeat, I ask them questions to understand their nervous system. Are you always in fight or flight? Are you using food to feel safe and calm to bring you back to a safer place in your body? Are you eating mindlessly in the car because you're trying to get from point A to point B? And when we're mindlessly distracted and eating, we can't taste our food. We can't, it doesn't register in our digestive system. Distractor, per research, distracted eaters or mindless eating leads to overconsumption of calories beyond what a person needs. It leads to a disconnection from the body to understand what it needs, right? This is our culture. We go to the movies, we get a giant thing of popcorn, and by the end of the movie, we're at the bottom of the barrel and we're like, what the heck just happened? Right? That's distracted eating. That's just a hallmark part of it. So part of it is getting mindful, but also looking at our nervous system. Are we always in fight or flight? And what are the tools and the things that we can do to get ourselves back into a safe place where we feel socially connected and safe in our bodies? Because no one can become a lifelong intuitive eater until that's taken care of. So on the other side of sympathetic is parasympathetic. And within parasympathetic, I should probably like draw this out for y'all, but within parasympathetic, there's two sides. And it all relates to our nervous system and the actual like physical nervous system. There's the vagal ventral nervous system and the dorsal. You don't have to write this down, but just note there's two sides. And on one side of the parasympathetic nervous system, there is something called freeze or please. It's when we've been activated so much, right? That it's like the deer in headlights effect. Like you just freeze, you stop. You're like, I can't do this anymore. And I see that so commonly in people who have been chronically dieting and trying to fight their body. They're just like, I give up, right? I give up. I'm just going to go in a cocoon. I'm just going to be quiet. I'm going to, put my head under my covers. I'm going to eat because I'm bored. And it stimulates my nervous system a little bit because it's a bit depressed right now. It's this whole idea that, again, our nervous system is not completely regulated. So we spend a lot of time in sympathetic fight or flight, or maybe we spend a lot of time running away or hiding. I shouldn't say running away because that's more sympathetic, but hiding, right? Hiding If something doesn't work right away, we avoid it, right? Or um, if we feel triggered by a situation, social, like this is the person who doesn't go out and enjoy her dinner with friends because she's afraid that people will be judging her body. She just hides because that's safer for her in the moment. There's nothing wrong with this. We need both sides of our nervous system. We do. Like it's required. But it can, if somebody's in that sympathetic state or that dorsal vagal side of our parasympathetic, we can't access a connection to our hunger cues the same way that we can when we're in ventral vagal. Just Google polyvagal theory if you guys want to geek out on this, but um, there's this window of tolerance within the ventral vagal area where we can actually listen to our body wisdom, eat when we're hungry, stop when we're full, and it feels safe. So what I want to, I guess, drive home here, and please let me know if this is making sense to you, because I get that this is a little bit nerdy right now with the science. But the idea here is that with a dysregulated nervous system, if we're always fighting or flighting, and we're always hiding and freezing, we can't access our hunger cues the same way, because we feel hunger when we're anxious. Sometimes anxiety can be misinterpreted as hunger, right? Like whoever who here has ever like witnessed that anxious feelings actually are kind of similar to hunger feelings, right? So if you think you're an overeater, again, that's all relative, because sometimes overeaters are actually just feeding their body what it chemically needs in the moment, and they feel like they're overeating because of what diet culture has told them. But in other cases, we're eating from, some people call it emotional eating, but we're eating because we're either sympathetically or really parasympathetically driven in our nervous system, and we don't know how to find that balance. Again, let me know if this is making sense. Okay. And if I'm totally lost you, please ask questions, because I am happy to spend more time here. But in the essence of time, I just want to bring this idea that so many people in our country, in our culture, have a dysregulated nervous system. I am one of those people. Okay. I am constantly working to regulate my nervous system. I do meditation. I pray every day. I spend a lot of time walking outside in the sunshine. These are ways we can feel safe in our body. I like to drink warm cup of coffee. I like to use weighted blankets. These are different tools that you can use to help your body feel safe in the moment. Sunshine is really good for nervous system regulation. Just getting some vitamin D, if you will, every day is a helpful component. But if we're not taking care of our nervous system while we're learning intuitive eating, and as we're kind of peeling back the layers of identity, the work doesn't set in as deeply, in my experience. Okay. And I will tell you all, polyvagal. Oh, thank you. Okay. So Tammy's writing it out for everyone. I will tell you that the Venn diagram that you guys have, this is mine. This is not like some weird evidence-based model or anything. This is my philosophy on how to help a woman really move through this process. Okay, you're not going to find this by Googling it. This is something I put together about a month ago, because I've been doing all of this stuff with clients, and I'm like, I need to make this like a visual. I'm a visual person, so this is how I specifically work. Maybe I'll do a research on it, study on it someday. But I want you guys to know that this is not um, something you can go like find on the internet. In fact, Tammy, the moderator today, she and I have been working together on it, because we both strongly, through our experience, have found that the combination of the intuitive eating principles, polyvagal theory, our nervous system, emotional regulation. I also use something called heart math in my practice, and the identity work just really create this concrete container for a person to move through the motions to become the intuitive eater, but also overcome what they consider overeating, or just that general fear that diet culture has instilled about you around weight loss, weight gain, weight neutrality, etc. Okay. Okay. Yeah, these terms I've never heard. I knew that there'd be some new terms for you guys. So please, thank you all for hanging tight and listening in. Tammy is doing a beautiful job. She is throwing in some of these terms. So if you want to Google and do some research on them yourself, by all means, I mean, there's great resources out there. But what I'm telling you here is that there's a combination of factors that really helps a person in this work, in this process. Okay, let's move on. There's so much more. I could spend the rest of the time here, but I really want to get through the second and third point. These will take less time and make sure I get to your questions as well. So in the second epiphany, I'm going to move on. Tammy, do I need to address anything before I do? No, we're good. Okay, awesome. So I'm going to move on to epiphany number two, which is giving ourselves unconditional permission to eat and rejecting the diet culture, as we just talked about, can help us stop overeating for good and overcome our fear of weight gain. The key point here is that kind of an overarching theme of intuitive eating is this decision that we get to make to neutralize the power that food has had over us. Food is not morally good or morally bad. And you can start to activate this by actively watching your thoughts come into your brain when you pick up an Oreo. Oh, I shouldn't eat this. You know, like all the things like, oh, I shouldn't eat this, but I'm going to anyway. Feelings and say, oh, interesting. Awareness. Interesting. Can I neutralize that? Can I make a decision that this brownie or this Oreo is not good or bad? It just is. And when we start to neutralize the power that food has over us, and this can take time to unravel, I get that. That food is neither good, morally good or bad, and neither are we for eating it. Okay. You're not a bad person because you ate the Oreo. You're not a good person because you ate arugula. Okay. It's neutral. Only we have given it the power that it has over us. So, by giving ourselves from this place of neutrality unconditional permission to eat food, only then can we start to access information from our body. Because so often our logical brain wants to take over and make the decision, say, oh, you're bad for eating this or good for eating that, you know, good for exercising, not good for not exercising, whatever. But when we give ourselves unconditional permission and we neutralize the power of that food, what we do is we begin to open the door to our inner wisdom and we can start to be like, I ate the cookie. I feel fine. Nothing happened. All is well. Or I ate the cookie. I'm going to eat another. You know, I'm feeling kind of jittery. I don't think I like that feeling. I'm going to stop eating Oreos because I don't need any more. Can you see the difference in the dialogue? Can you see the difference in the dialogue? I stopped eating the Oreo because it's not making my body feel good. I like if I ate Oreos right now without having had a meal in a little while, I'd get shaky after like 2 or 3 cookies. Okay. Before I became an intuitive eater, I would have binge ate and ate a whole strip of Oreos. And not, I was disconnected. I was in my head thinking about, oh, this is not good, but I'm going to do it anyway. Right. And all that mental chatter blocks the key information that the body has for us. Okay. Tammy says there is a question. Tammy, go ahead and unmute yourself if you don't mind.
Yeah, if you could just repeat again of what to say to ourselves when eating maybe a food that in the past we have considered quote unquote bad.
Yeah. Okay. So this is called cognitive flexibility. It's just an exercise. I think it's from CBT or something, but it's catching the thought in the moment. So you see yourself judging yourself or shaming yourself for the consumption of the food. What you want to do in that moment is be aware of it and say, "Oh, cool. Okay, there's a thought. How can I reframe?" So instead of saying, "Oh, the cookies are going to make me fat. Oh, the cookies are going to, destroy my health." Oh, if I eat 1 or 2 cookies, the world isn't going to end. 1 or 2 cookies doesn't make me fat. Eating 1 or 2 cookies is going to actually bring me pleasure in this moment. So those are just like sample phrases that you could use to help kind of reframe, but you also have to get in the habit of catching yourself say those things. Okay. Let me know in the chat, you guys, is this helpful information? I want to make sure that I'm getting to and helping you guys not only understand kind of the framework, but also I'm going to start sharing some really tangible tools here next. Okay, good. Very helpful. Okay, good. I'm assuming you guys are doing okay if you're still here, right? So So this, we give ourselves unconditional permission to eat because biologically and psychologically, deprivation does set us up for rebound eating or quote unquote overeating. So when we can activate the awareness, neutralize the food, eat food from a place of that neutrality, then we can start to listen to our body signals instead of reaching out to external validation, right? Which we oftentimes use to dictate our food choices. Good. Okay, you guys are still with me. And real unconditional permission to eat should not be confused with pseudo permission because I see people doing this. They get the book, they start the process, and they're like, I'm going to try this, right? But I'm only going to do it for 3 weeks. And that's still diet mentality in a way, right? Like, I'm going to try this, but I'm really skeptical. I'm not sure this is going to work for me. And I get why you feel that way. Believe me, I get it. Like I felt that way when I started in intuitive eating. I became an intuitive eating counselor. I got certified and blah, blah, blah. But I was still scared. I was like, oh my God, I can eat the ice cream? Woo! But what I found is through that neutralization is I didn't want the ice cream as much as I thought I did. The Oreos that I like always avoided actually didn't taste as good when I started to tap into my body wisdom after consuming, pints of Ben and Jerry's, eventually my body wanted to eat a salad. Like there's this amazing power through that lens of neutrality that can be very powerful. Then there's the spouse who tells me how bad I am for eating what he's eating. Oh goodness, yes. Dealing with these external voices is definitely a thing. So I just want to see and validate that. That's very true. I don't know if I'm going to have time to talk about that today, but hold that to the end, Tammy, if you can make note of that one. I will speak to that because that is huge. That's part of diet culture's consistent um, influence in our lives. Sometimes it can come from love from the people we love, but it just is really damaging. So just the fact that you've identified that as like a diet culture voice can be very powerful. I crave the sweets that I do not have in the house, like cakes or cookies. No craving for the ice cream now in the fridge. Okay. Yeah. So if you crave those things, can you go to the store and with unconditional permission give yourself the permission to eat that? Now this is a scary step for a lot of people. You may or may not be ready for that. Okay, so I don't want to force somebody into that if they're not ready, but I just, when you do give yourself unconditional permission to eat, try not to allow it to be pseudo permission and fully embrace this. Okay. But remembering that the pursuit of weight loss actually drives that out of control feeling with food because it dictates our success versus using the internal guideposts that we can activate for success. Okay. So let's look at some tools here that I've given you. The first is the hunger discovery scale. So everyone go ahead and grab that one and put it on side with the food and mood journal. So these are 2 tools I often use with my clients and helping them begin to activate. So let's see, does everyone have that? Do you want me to pull up the visual or do you guys have it in front of you? Pull up the visual? Okay.
Yeah, just for a minute.
Okay. Happy to do that. Okay, you guys can see this. So I'm actually going to start with the food and mood journal, just because this is usually how I start with somebody on this journey, is whether it's this printed out version or something of their own design. I also have like some virtual products that I use to help people with this, but the food, mood, and lifestyle journal is just a way to start bringing the awareness to our food choices. So in this food and mood journal, you can see there's an area to write down your foods. You can start to become aware of the different colors of foods that you consume. This is not as a space of judgment, like, oh, I didn't eat enough red stuff. It's just activating a sense of curiosity. And then you can mark, oh, was that a protein containing meal, a fat containing meal, a fiber containing meal? Again, without judgment. So you just have information and then recognize, how did I feel today? What are some notes about my mental, emotional, and spiritual health today? How did I feel after eating this meal versus that meal from that place of neutrality? And I notice that when I eat more colorful foods, this happens. And when I eat more of these other colors of foods, that happens. Again, I'm not filling in the blanks for you because that needs to be your experience. And then you can also look from a holistic standpoint at different indicators that can affect appetite, that can affect your stress levels. And you can start to witness, gosh, when I don't eat or when I don't sleep enough, I tend to find I'm more activated in my hunger cues. Or when I'm do daily movement, I witness that this happens or that happens. It's just a space of it's just a space of awareness. I am a bit worried with journaling. Inconsistent, not feel like okay. Great question. So with anything I'm sharing with you guys today, this is really common. Is like, oh, if I don't do this thing that Beth told me to do, then I'm a failure, right? Like this is a normal human tendency. So I just want to honor that with y'all first, okay? Um, it's like you can take this on as rules, and I was just discussing this with a client actually. It's like this is meant as a discovery piece, and I want you to notice and witness what's going on in your nervous system when you feel worried and anxious about doing it quote unquote right. And how does that actually detract from the actual behavior of doing the journal, right? If you're using it as another form of judging yourself for being good or bad, does the tool even serve you? And then you can actively make a decision that I'm going to step away from the journaling for a couple days, see how I feel, so on and so forth. Okay. And come back to it when it feels right. Sometimes it's uncomfortable to try on a new thing, like a journal in this case, but please know that this is not another indicator of your goodness or your badness. This is just a way to, and this is where we work on identity, is I am the person who is open to receiving information through tools and really activating that versus I am the being who feels worn down by or allows myself to feel pressure to do anything that doesn't feel good in my body. So just keep that in mind. These are not, this feels like tracking as in my Weight Watchers. Yeah. And so this should be much different. There's no calorie counting. I see that there's the macro section. I get that. That's more as awareness. So like when I eat breakfast with protein, I feel this way. When I eat a breakfast with carbohydrates, I feel that way. It's not meant as a indicator that you're doing it right or wrong. Okay. So that's really important to note. Um, yeah. Yeah. Maybe pick one day to journal, start small. Yeah. Start small. Give yourself very easy to achieve small goals to start, like journal one meal a day, or journal one day a week or something like that, something that can help you feel successful, and then you can incrementally go up. I like that comment. Okay. It's to show us how food is affecting us. Okay. So it's to get us out into that place of food neutrality so that we can actually start to access more information from the body. Like this food makes me feel this way. This food makes me feel that way versus external validation. I was told that I needed to eat this food to be healthy and avoid that food to be healthy, So it's getting out of the shoulding and into the body. Okay. This is just one tool to start that. You want to know what the colors mean. Oh, the colors. Notice, you guys, that the colors are just the color of the food. So if you ate a red apple, you'd circle red. And then maybe you also had salad or something. Green is for spinach. Yeah. Blue, purple, black are like potatoes, purple potatoes. I don't know why that came in through. Blueberries. White, tan, and brown. Just think of foods that are white. Rice is white, So brown chocolate. Hey, that's fine. That's fine. The colors are just to help you kind of see if there's a connection more with plant foods, because there's, we do know, and I'm not even going to get into gentle nutrition today, but we do know that, sometimes for many people, colorful foods help them feel more energetic and vibrant. So this is your area of the food mood journal, just to see if that is your experience. I've had people who don't tolerate fiber and they can't eat fruits and vegetables. So more, animal product foods make them feel better. Like there's not a right or a wrong. That's why no one diet is right for no one person. Okay. It's because there's different things that can influence us from not only a day-to-day basis, from a decade basis. Like women who are in menopause probably feel better on certain types of foods than women who are before menopause. Like there's too much that our body changes throughout a lifetime to tell us that this is the way, right? And that's where intuitive eating becomes such an amazing, powerful, it's just amazing because it helps us find that on our own without, searching the internet for the gurus to tell us what to do. Okay. Which usually doesn't last long term. And then the hunger discovery journal is just to help you start to build build a dialogue and conversation about your hunger. And this, as you can see here, you write the time that you're hungry, your hunger rating, 0 through 10, 10 being super hungry, ravenous. You can make notes on here. 0 being not hungry at all. And you write down, like, how am I feeling at the time? Is my quality of hunger pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral? You can write down the food and meal eaten and then some comments about it. So you can just start to pay. This is just an awareness building exercise. This is not me telling you have to do this. Okay. So for anyone that's like, oh my God, this is what I have to do to become an intuitive eater, this is just a tool. So if it resonates with you and you're like, ooh, I want to try this for a week or a couple days or a day, right? Just try it on. It doesn't have, don't keep it light, keep it, just be curious. Like, what will happen if I try this journal out for just a couple days? Like, what will I learn about myself? Because the being who's this goes back to identity, the being an intuitive eater is somebody who's open and receptive to different ways, right? I'm open and receptive to learning a new way to do food and body, right? So, how are we doing, everybody? Let me know in the comments how you are. I know the training, we're at 75 minutes. Everyone get up. If you can, get up. Let's just shake it out a little bit. Talking about somatic exercise. Let's just get up for a second. I know my head's cut off. You guys, I'm 6 foot tall. I can't really help how tall I am in these videos, but let's go ahead and shake it out. All right. We're almost to Epiphany 3. Do a little dance. One thing you can do to help your nervous system regulate is move your body. This isn't going and like doing a HIIT training program. This is just moving your body, I have a friend who teaches hip circles. Okay, so just go ahead. You can turn your video off if you don't feel good about it, but just shake it out a little bit. We've been talking for a long time here. So I know for me at least, sometimes on my group coaching program, I'll get up and move around and my people are like, what are you doing? But it's good. It's good to shake out that energy. Okay. I'm also a yoga instructor in training. So movement is very nourishing in my experience. So move, shake, shake, and we can go ahead and whenever you're ready, keep moving. Hey, you can take your phone or your whatever around the house. Sometimes when I'm on the Zoom calls, I'll go for a walk, whatever works for you. All right, cool. So I'm going to wrap up the hunger discovery scale in essence of time, but please check it out. There's some questions on the last page. And of course, the attribution. This is a tool in the intuitive eating workbook, actually. So some of you already have this if you already have that tool. So I'm going to go ahead and stop share here. Come back to my notes. Okay, did that feel good? Oh, yes, that taught me to use take movement snacks. Yes. And again, that is not mine. That is my friend Brienne's. She's a physical therapist. And she's like, just like we have snacks with food, take movement snacks. And I sit at a computer a lot. So it also refreshes the brain learning cycle. Yeah. So anytime you guys need to get up and shake it out, please, 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 please do that. Okay. Okay. So, honoring our hunger. So everyone's feeling good. Does this feel helpful? Are these tools going to help you? Let us know in the comments, what tool will you use first if you want to use one of the tools? Again, this is not a rule, but what tool calls to you more, the food and mood journal or the hunger discovery journal? I'd love to know in the comments which one seems like one that you'd like to try. Because honoring our hunger is more than just using these tools. Learning our unique hunger and fullness in a regulated nervous system really can support our energy needs. So overeating becomes much less likely. Okay. And you won't, this just being in this training right now is not enough. You have to experience it. And that's why I wanted to give you these tangible tools. Okay. Is because, okay. So I see journal, food and mood journal, hunger discovery. Okay, cool. About 50-50, it looks like, from those of you who responded there. Yeah, cool. Great. Okay, some of you have to go. By all means, go. You can catch the rest of the recording later. I will be giving you guys the bonus here in just a minute. Okay, so I'm hungry now with all this talk about food. We'll go get a snack. We had a session on Friday with my group that I have in kind of a more intimate training. We did a EFT tapping session and we tapped around, if you guys know what tapping is, it's using the meridians of the body to kind of work with emotion. And we tapped on craving. Some of you were there who are in this call right now. Some of you were there, but we tapped on cravings and we tapped on body acceptance. It was freaking powerful. Like, it was amazing. I actually tapped on if you don't know what tapping is, don't worry, it's not a big deal, but just a little aside. I tapped on queso and chips the other day because I felt like I strongly needed them. And I will give myself unconditional permission, but I knew I was just biologically hungry too. So I tapped on the chips because I know my how my body responds. And after I tapped, I like didn't want chips, but I was still hungry. So I fed myself something that was really nourishing. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Yeah, tapping is super interesting. You can find a lot of information on YouTube about it, but I try to have regular, well, I'm going to start to have regular tapping sessions with my group clients just because it's such a powerful way to kind of move our emotions and shift our experience with food itself. So, didn't didn't intend to go there, but let's get into Epiphany 3. And Epiphany 3 is reprogramming your relationship with food and body saves time. Because usually by this time, after you've heard this information, especially if it's really new to you, perhaps this is old hat information and lots of good reminders. I will say, repetition is the master of all learning. So the more you hear it, the more you believe it, the more you become it yourself. And I also recognize that it can be overwhelming. Okay. So I'd love to hear how you are doing in terms of amount of information. Is everyone doing okay? Because I know that you can feel like, oh my God, this is great. And I just don't have the time, right? I just don't have the time. So the idea here is if you feel like you don't have the time, you can figure this out. Okay. And actually, minimal amount of time, because this is something I know to be true. And this is something that you may relate to. And I'd love to know in the chat if you do. But how much time are you currently worried about food and body now? How much time, if you could quantify it as a percentage or number of hours, how much time are you spending thinking about food, thinking about overeating, thinking about your weight? Okay, I see 24/7, too many, 95. Okay, it takes less time than diets, yes. Diets take up a lot of time. Most women I talk to spend at least 50, if not more percent. They will quantify it with 50 or more percent of time. Okay. So I have to just say, like, this, you have to give this time. You have to give it time now so that you can free your mind and your passion, your purpose in this one lifetime that you get on the planet into something that's so much bigger than you, right? That's not about food or what I look like in the mirror, right? Like we as women, I speak to women, I work only with women. We as women don't give ourselves enough love and attention for what we are here on this planet to do. So if you spend a lot of time on food and body, no, you're not alone. Most women do. And the reality is that this work, this reprogramming work that I shared with you today will save you time in the long run. Does that make sense? We're worth the time. Yes, we are. I feel this. Okay. And money too. The average, I saw a statistic, the average dieter spends something like $31,000 a year in her lifetime on food and diets, exercise programs, gyms, like whatever in the pursuit of a smaller body, right? $31,000 in a lifetime and something like 17 or 18 years either obsessing about or thinking about this. I don't know about you, but the years are actually more important to me than the money in many cases. Like, I know how much time I was wrapped. I became a dietitian. Okay. This is just a little known secret about me. I became a dietitian so that I could control my body. I was ashamed of that fact for many years, but it's now a form of liberation for me because it's not that way anymore. Thank you, Jesus. Like, it's not that way anymore for me. But I became a dietitian because I thought that if I could control my body, then I could control the people who loved me, my self-worth, and I could stay thin my entire life. I have spent more than $31,000 on my education, initially in pursuit to do that. Now I spend my money on how to help women like you overcome this tragedy, right? Because the reality is your worth is not in your weight, okay? And your time and your money are better spent on figuring this out. And that's my very strong opinion. But I'm curious if you agree. When you think about the time that you spend prepping for the next keto round, or the time that you spend like thinking about, oh my God, did I just overeat? The guilt and the shame cycle in and of themselves can be so time consuming. I literally spent 4 years of my life learning how to become a dietitian, and then another 8, 9 months in my internship to master what to eat. Okay. Where did it lead me? It led me here. Thank you. I love nutrition science. It's super cool, but it no longer rules my life. And I don't want the same for you. Keep weight down. So much food prep. Yeah. Yeah. Keep weight down, play my best tournament, so performance. And it's like the energy behind it too is different, right? We can spend time on food prep because it's a nourishing activity for our mind, body, soul, or we can dread food prep because it's what we quote unquote should do. There's a difference in energy that happens when we reprogram our relationship with food. One of my clients, actually, she was an integrative life coach. She taught other women how to do all the things, mind, body, okay, meditation teacher, all the things, but she hated preparing a meal for her and her husband. After we worked together, she was like, she started to enjoy food again. And she started to make this connection that, oh my God, this work that I do with women around like empowering them to live their better life, like how we do food is how we do life, right? So, holy cow, like she created the synergy, and like things like food prep were like this thing she got to do and got to explore and be curious about. It just became so much more liberating in the end. Does that make sense? So, I could have become a nutritionist with this money I've spent on diets. Girlfriend, you're not alone. So, anyway, so I'm here to change that. And I really hope that totally makes sense. Okay, so Tammy has 4 questions. I want to get to those. Before I do, I want to make sure those of you who stuck around, you're going to get the bonus. I'm going to send you some additional I'm going to put this in the chat now. Feel free to click on it, copy and paste it. If for some reason you lose this link, just email me, I'll get it to you. But this is a journal prompts. This is something I have available for people. But this is just a list of journal prompts. So if you're somebody who likes to journal, this is a powerful way to start to access the truth, access the truth of diet culture, but also start to access what is true for you and your body. And it will relate to what we talked about today. So there's 20 journal prompt questions. There's instructions and information on how to use them and everything. But this is my gift to you guys for hanging out with me here and sticking around. And you guys have been so awesome in talking to me today through the chat. So thank you so much. And I know that some of you are coming here and you're like, I'm going to get everything I need from Beth in this training. And I hope that is the case. Please let me know in the comments if you got some tangible things to take with you and start practicing and looking at and investigating for yourself. I wanted this training to be full of actionable things that you can do right now, today, this week, to help you on this journey. Okay. And I also know that there are some of you who are like, this is awesome, and I want to get there faster, right? I want to quantum leap myself into this reprogramming work. I want to not only like get it in my logical brain, but also become it. You're kind of like, ooh, I want to know how to do this nervous system stuff and this identity work. And if that is you, just let me know. Let me know. Obviously this training is really to be an action-packed space for you guys to learn and grow. But if you're somebody who's like, you know what? I need more. I want more support. I do have an amazing, oh my God, I freaking love my women. I have an amazing group coaching program. I just dropped the link in here. So if you're somebody who's like, I want more, I want to connect with Beth, and I want to get more intimate support. When somebody joins my group coaching program, they get one-on-one support. They get a group healing community. So they get a group of women going through the same thing as them. And they get access to me in a much more intimate way than you'll be able to access me through the Facebook group or through a training like this. If you want to take your health and you want to reprogram yourself so you don't have to spend the time and money on this, please let me know. Okay. Okay. So I don't see the links. Okay. Oh, you know what? I'm dropping the links to everyone in the waiting room. How weird is that? I don't know how to. Everyone in meeting. Oh my God, that's so funny. Okay, so I just dropped the link to, thank you so much for the heads up. So I just dropped the link to the strategy So if you want to get on the phone with me, basically the idea here is if you want to get on the phone with me and talk about your specific and unique situation, see if deeper support would be something that could help you kind of quantum leap yourself to this through this reprogramming work. I have this incredible program to help you do that. If not, seriously, no big deal. There's no pressure ever. But I want you to know that if you want a more deep and intimate connection with me, you are more than welcome to schedule a call. You do have to fill out a short little application just to make sure we're on the same page. In the call, we decide if we're a good fit. I mean, I'm not the right fit for everyone, right? And I get that I'm also meant to help certain women. So if you're called to it, don't see the link to the journal prompts. Okay, give me a second here, you guys. Yeah, I somehow sent it to. I'm there. Journal prompts. I just sent them. I'm gonna drop it again with a link. Journal prompts. Okay. All right. So I dropped it twice. So you guys should have access to the food freedom strategy call. So if you do want to jump on a call with me, I actually have filled a few spots this week already, but I do have a few more spots to talk to people this week. If you just want to explore this is a no obligation, no pressure, absolutely free call. We talk for about an hour and we just explore what your unique situation is and if the program that I offer is a good fit for you. And then we talk about what that looks like. Cool if you do, cool if you don't, but I want you to know that that more intimate connection work is available. And we go into that Venn diagram in more depth. I help you one-on-one, I help you in the group. I mean, it's an amazing opportunity to get access to more of this information so you can continue to create lasting change in your life. So again, the links to the journal prompts and the strategy call should both be there. Again, I have a few more spots with my strategy calls this week. Otherwise, they will be going into next week. I can do about 2 or 3 calls a day and then like my nervous system shuts down. So just, as a matter of, because I want to give you all of me and I need to take care of myself. So I can take a couple calls a day. But if you would like to, feel free to follow that strategy call application, fill it out, book a call, and you'll get a confirmation from me when everything is set up. So, yep, I talked to Beth earlier. Yay. Yeah. Some people, even if the group program's not a good fit for them, they're like, this was so amazing. Like, I learned so much about myself. No one gets to talk. We all like to talk about what's going on for us. And sometimes just saying it out loud can be really helpful. Yes, you're welcome, Eileen. You're welcome. Thank you, guys. So, Tammy, I'm going to unmute you now, and feel free to let me know what questions are. You guys can hang out. I'm free to hang out for a little while longer. The main training is come to a close, but feel free, Tammy, unmute yourself and let me know what questions came in. And then, of course, if you guys have questions, drop them in the chat right now. This is a perfect time. I can address those questions in real time as well. So
we have a few questions that came in that I've been keeping track of. And I think, one of the questions that came in, this is probably the quickest one that I wanted to address. Someone was just asking if they could get a sample of how to fill out the tools. And so I thought that might be great to send in a follow-up email that you could fill out one of your tools as a sample and send that out to everybody if that's a possibility. They just wanted a sample of how to fill out the food and mood journal and the hunger scale journal. So
that's a great question. Absolutely. You might have to give me a little bit of time to get to that, whoever asked that question. And let me know in the chat if other people want that too. If it's just one person, I could probably just write you a quick email. But if it's more people, I definitely want you to, like I can send it out. You might need, I have some other things that are going to take precedence over that, but I can get to that for sure. So everyone in this room too is going to get access to the recording. So yeah, okay. So other people want to see a sample. Okay. Just give me some days. Don't get on my back until it's been about a week. Okay. So, but yeah, no, I totally understand that. Okay.
So then another question that came up was, I think it was around when we were talking a little bit about kind of really just letting go of this, weight defining us, and really letting go of feeling like we have to be at a perfect weight, to be healthy. And one of the attendees kind of had a concern that she kind of feels like, in her body, her joints don't hurt quite as much when she has less weight on her body. And so I think she's feeling a little conflicted around, well, how do I let go of this when I can physically kind of feel a difference? So I'm not sure if you're going to be able to cover all that. There are a few more questions as well, but that's the question, the first one.
Yeah. Well, and Tammy, you being another expert in this area with haze and all that, I would love to hear what you have to say too. But generally speaking, research is finding that, the changes that we have in our body, we have so long attributed to weight loss. Like, oh, your blood pressure will be lower when you lose weight, your this will be lower. But what research is actually finding that it's not actually the weight loss that creates positive change in the body, it's actually the behavior itself. So a lot of people, I mean, and I'm not saying this is absolutely 1000% true in every case, but when someone has a lot of joint pain, you know, is it their weight or is it their lack of movement, right? Even if it's small movements that they do every day or whatnot. In some cases, weight, you'll hear that from like your orthopedic person. Oh, if you lose 20 pounds, you'll take off, I don't know how they justify it with some number of weight off of your knees or whatever. But if we focus on the healthy behaviors, if your weight is supposed to change and you're meant to be in a smaller body compared to where you're at now, it can still happen. But when we take the focus off of weight, it happens naturally, easily, effortlessly, and it's much more sustainable. So rather than having that yo-yo of trying to drop the pounds because the doctor told you so just because the joints are hurting, is a different lens than doing the actionable behavior changes, the listening to the body, the moving the body that feels good, to help relieve the joint pain. And then I hope this makes sense. Tammy, I would love to hear how you would answer this question too, because you are just awesome at answering this kind of stuff.
Oh, you're so sweet. You've done an amazing job already, Beth. And everyone's raving about it for sure in the chat. I would say, yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think it can really just first, I just want to kind of say it can really feel real in our body that that's the truth. And it's not only from the programming that we've had from kind of our whole life, right? But it's almost our nervous system is responding due to feeling that weakness, in our body. And so it can just feel really, really true in our body. And so I first want to just kind of say that, we understand that, we hear you. But then from there, really being able to kind of put on the, different view of glasses, right? And say, well, what else can I do? So instead of this, what else can I do? And so maybe it's working on some muscle strength building. Maybe it's finding a physical therapist who's willing to work with you and really is open to the healthy at every size. They're not going to be a triggering care provider, so something of that nature. I would say just really lean into strength building, and seeing what else you can do, like getting curious about what else is there besides the weight.
Yeah, it's easier said than done. This is a hard one because we've been so ingrained that weight loss equals health. But we also know that diet culture has actually made weight cycling and some of the response to diet culture has actually made us sicker. So if we can start to embrace that reality and say, okay, what can I do for my body versus what do I have, instead of moving into that space of resistance where, oh, I have to push, deprive, count, blah, 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 to hit this weight goal to be healthy. What can I do? Small steps, small actionable things can I do to achieve the same result without the obsession over the number on the scale?
So I think we'll shift into another question. I think the next two questions are very interrelated, but I'm going to ask one of them first. And that is, can depression and other mental illness prevent you from being successful with intuitive eating?
Say that one more time. Can mental
Can
depression?
depression and or other mental illnesses prevent
Yeah.
you from being successful with intuitive eating?
Okay, great question. Again, chime in, Tammy, if you have more to add here. But I would say that if you are suffering from mental health concerns, depression being just one of many, um, the path of intuitive eating can be very complementary to the support that we get from a licensed therapist, psychotherapist, psychologist. Okay, so when we're looking at treating depression and some of these other mental health concerns, that we need to look at it from a holistic lens. Like intuitive eating is very freeing for a lot of women who experience these mental health concerns because there's layers of diet culture that have penetrated them in a way that makes the depression worse, right? Like you are only good enough if you're thin enough, as an example of what that might look like. And there can be a lot of liberation within the intuitive eating model that can be very helpful in supporting the mental health paradigm. So I would say that there's a complementary point of access that intuitive eating can be supportive of those mental and emotional health goals. Is it the only thing you need to be doing? No. Like you should, you need to be taking care of yourself by working with somebody who is likely Hayes trained or trained in this area, understands the stuff. But of course, if you do have active depression or some other mental health concerns, like there might be moments where the work is a little bit harder and you have to take care of yourself in different ways. You might move more slowly through the intuitive eating principles than somebody who doesn't have the mental health concerns. But that's where that self-compassion needs to be activated, so that you can start to figure that out. So would you agree, Tammy, or do you have anything to add?
Yeah, no, I think that's very very thorough is already. And I will just say you were kind of mentioning, the self-compassion piece, and actually that's actually how Evelyn Tribbley and Elise Rush have kind of explained intuitive eating. That it's really kind of a self-compassionate framework of, nurturing our body, right? So it's all about leading into self-compassion. And I think just to highlight what Beth said is finding a provider who really works with you and is into at least understands intuitive eating and understands that concept, because there can be some uh, conflicting treatment modalities out there, I would say, with some therapists. And it's good to be aware of that, because if you're seeing a care provider for mental health challenges and they have a different view, and they have a view that food is an addictive substance, that's not going to be in alignment with going on an intuitive eating journey. You'll be in a very conflicted mode and you won't be able to move forward. So you definitely do need to have a provider who's aligned with your provider. And I think that's important as you're going through that journey. But I have also found that as women have gone through this journey, sometimes the levels of depression and some of the levels of different mental health challenges can actually diminish a little bit. I'm not saying that it treats it or takes care of it, but it can actually diminish it quite a bit, just because it kind of comes down to that chicken or egg, what comes first, like did the depression come from kind of this experience of diet culture, right? Or there's a possibility that some, depression is more chemical, related. And so it needs treated differently. But for some people, it's, it can be just a result of the environment. So
Yeah.
um, the other question, I think that's kind of related to this, has to do with someone had mentioned that their spouse who tells them how they're bad, for eating what he's eating. He's a skinny guy who never gains weight. And so just kind of dealing with the outside voices that affects us. And I think this goes really hand in hand with the mental health, challenges. Because I think anytime we have somebody who's judging us from the outside, it's kind of it's like a mini mental health crisis almost. So that's that, if you want to add on to that, Beth.
Yeah, sure. And I love this dialogue. Don't you like hearing another voice other than mine? Tammy's brilliant. So I'm just like blah, 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 blah. So yeah, no, I would say this is one of the biggest challenges, even for women within my group program. I would actually like look through the lens, like these voices, what even if they're well intended, they're like little traumas. It's traumatic to hear that you're not good enough until you eat a certain way or till you look a certain way. That's a traumatic event. And I think if we look at through the lens of that, like this being a little mini trauma, when somebody, every time they kind of poke you, it's like a little jab every time, but those accumulate. And that, should be treated as such. We should look at ourselves through that compassionate lens of self-awareness and be like, and decide if we can actively, protect ourselves with boundaries in these circumstances. So saying, hey, I hear you asking me to eat less or eat differently. And while I understand that your opinion or your truth is that this is what needs to happen, I this is not what I need right now to be my healthiest. So if you can access that conversation with the person who's making the comments, or if they're no longer in your life, but it's just a distant memory that kind of still haunts you, it's a matter of creating those boundaries for you in this present moment and saying, this is no longer okay for me. And so Tammy, do you want to add anything to that? I know this is a really tough one, but really this is about us kind of standing in ourselves and being like, this is what's okay and this is what's not okay, and honoring that through compassionate conversation with likely the person who loves you and wants the best for you. And you can just say, hey, I know you want the best for me right now, but my work is really in learning how to become an intuitive eater or whatever. And these comments don't really help me. They actually make me want to rebel and eat more, because that happens in many cases.
And I think,
Um,
oh, go
yeah,
ahead.
go for it. No, 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 please.
I was just
Please.
going to add that, this is the power of actually having a community of, women like in Beth's coaching program, is because these things come up all the time, as we're prepping for even a holiday or being around family that we maybe haven't seen, or it can be with our spouse that says something that we're like, kind of caught off guard. And so the benefit of having that community is being able to, and a community and a coach, is being able to look to somebody and say, how do I get through this? And, give me some tools, basically, because I think each one of these situations, it can be, a little bit different. And for each person, it can be a little bit different. So it's very, it can be very personal. So I'm going to move on to the next question just for sake of time. But I think we're going to both love this. And the reason I'm smiling about this is because actually Beth and I met working for WIC. That's how we met, probably, oh gosh, what was it, 15 years ago, I think.
It was the beginning of my career. I was,
Yeah. So
yeah.
yeah. So anyways, this is the question. It says, she says, she's breastfeeding an infant. I get WIC and feel myself pushing myself to eat the food I am given in order to not waste it and get in nutrition. And how would a program like this fit with intuitive eating? And so, you know, I have a few thoughts on this. And I think, one thing I just want to say is that sometimes we can just try to get creative and get curious. Like, that's always my go-to, is just getting curious. Like, well, I'm curious, what else could I maybe do with these foods that would actually really feel good, in my body. But then there's also a level of just really understanding where we're at in terms of our food structure, and knowing, feeling safe around food and having adequate amounts of food. We have to feel that we have adequate amounts of food before we can actually move into these higher levels sometimes of thinking around food. And I think I'm going to turn it over to Beth, because she can talk about it from a nervous system standpoint probably a little bit
Keep
better than.
going. No, you did. You're
Oh,
doing awesome. I love it.
I'm turning it over to you.
Oh,
But those are my few nuggets on that one.
yeah. Well, and Tammy introduced me to that, like kind of a hierarchy of needs. Like when we first and foremost, before we can access our intuitive eater, need to be taken care of. That base layer is just having enough food. And I was talking about food trauma earlier, and one form of food trauma is insecurity, food insecurity. If you did at some point in your life, and this can contribute to overeating tendencies as well. But if you at one point in your life felt like you did not have access to enough food for one reason or another, whether you're put on a diet as a kid or you truly just, your family did not have the means to provide enough to fill your belly, that is a form of food trauma that that is the first thing that wants to be addressed when we look at this. So when you can become an intuitive eater by all means, whether you participate on WIC or not. But I feel like Tammy had a really good answer to this program, or to this question, and that is to get curious about the foods you're getting. I know when I worked in WIC, and I spent 8 years of my career in the WIC program, and I loved it. But what I noticed is people were like, I don't know what to do with all this extra milk or all this extra cheese or all this extra, 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 extra. And there's almost a sense of guilt that comes along with not being able to use it, letting it go to waste or something. So in that curiosity space, you can be like, okay, how could I freeze some of this? Could I share it with a friend? Maybe I can trade some milk for something else that they have. You can get creative with getting more variety in your house, because I know the WIC foods can get a little monotonous if that's, especially like, what was it, the food that people got so much of? I can't remember. Milk seemed to build up really
Tuna
fast.
beans for a breastfeeding mom. And like, I know
The
my
tuna, yeah.
sister, when she was, nursing and had a few kiddos and stuff, I remember going to her house once and she had the tuna holding up her TV. so so that's how she used her tuna. So I mean, really, like, you got to just figure out how it works. And then sometimes it's just incorporating it into different recipes and getting, like, just getting really curious, and it can actually make it kind of fun, being like, okay, what can I do with this stuff? So
Cheese and peanut butter. Yeah, peanut butter. It depends on what you like to eat, right? And when you access the intuitive eater, even in small levels, you might determine that like you're just not a peanut butter person. And so maybe you just stop buying it with your WIC checks. Like that's always an option that people don't realize they have with WIC is you don't have to buy everything. So if you feel like it's like building up and it's overwhelming, creating more anxiety for you, you don't actually need it. Then you can always, what is WIC? Oh, Minnie, WIC is a program in the United States, Women, Infants, and Children. It's a government program that issues healthy foods to families who need the support for children under age 5, breastfeeding women, pregnant women. So it's a program that helps with nutrition education and ensuring that homes can get access to healthy foods who need it. So they use a surplus. Yeah, I mean, there's a whole bunch. We could go off into a conversation
Well,
about that. We won't, but
I don't think we have other questions unless anybody wants to put them in the chat right now. But I think unless I missed one, and I may have missed one, and if I did, I deeply apologize. So if I missed it, please re-put your question in as well.
I see one that came in asking if I have experience with dealing with celiac. Yes, I used to work at a functional medicine office. I worked with a lot of autoimmune and gut health issues. So when I have people in my group or working with them, and they have a particular allergy to a food like gluten, I have a lot of compassion for those women too, because I've worked with I've worked with elimination diets and all kinds of things that set up more cycles of deprivation and scarcity around food, and I get that like psychologically, it can be really really tough. So that's a great question. Oh, April says she asked about cortisol. Is there a stress hormone that is part of the nervous system? So I'm sorry we missed that. So stress hormone that is part of so are you asking about cortisol and how it affects the body? Yes. Okay, so when I was talking, I'm assuming this was around the time I was talking about the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system. When
Yeah.
we're in that fight or flight, we do elicit a response from our hormones change. And that is something I didn't go into in depth here. And it can, so insulin and cortisol are two stress related hormones that can be released from the body. I share this with you with a grain of salt because I don't want this to become, and I've seen this question come up. It's like, oh my God, I'm stressed. Oh my God, my cortisol's up. Oh my God, my insulin is up. I'm screwed. It can almost perpetuate that cycle of freaking out, if you will. But it is true that cortisol and insulin are a reflection of kind of that chronically elevated stress that can come with just being a human on this planet, especially a woman. And research shows, yes, there's this connection to belly fat, and whatnot. I don't want to spend a lot of time on that and perseverate over this idea that that's the only thing that creates changes in the body. But I want to just you use that and that understanding to support this idea that how we do food is how we do life. If we lead a constantly stressful life and we don't take care of ourselves and move ourselves back into a place of rest and relax and connection with ourselves, we're missing the boat on what it means to be healthy. Because I've seen this, especially in my functional medicine practice. You can be eating the healthiest diet in the whole dang world, according to nutrition science, and you can still be very unhealthy because of the chronic stress that comes along with the pressures of keeping the diet, the pressures of being the person you need to be career wise, family health wise. Like stress is such a thing that all of us are trying to conquer on a day-to-day basis. And cortisol and insulin are two hormones that, yes, research knows are elevated in chronically stressful time periods in our lives. But I just want to remind you that that's just more fuel to do this work. I mean, really, to do this work, to do this nervous system work, to look at intuitive eating as a new path to food freedom. That's where these different tools can not only heal our relationship with food and body, but can also bring our stress levels down or make them more manageable when we have a better understanding of how it works. So let me know in the chat if that helped.
And another question has come in around that she's been having issues with finding more options for what she can eat. Her aunt has said gluten intolerance is the worst issue to have in the world. And I think, celiac is one thing, right? Because that's an actual known metabolic allergy to where the person cannot have gluten in their diet. Otherwise, things like stunted growth happens, and hives break out. There's very biological things that happen. But there is kind of a whole spectrum of potential gluten intolerance. And I think in this work, we have to sometimes stop and say, are we having gluten intolerance due to stress and all the things that Beth was just talking about? And is that why we're unable to have some, or is that why we have some intolerances to food? Or is it actually truly a metabolic, issue? And I think first we have to always kind of heal that relationship with food before we can even start to discover if we have actual true, food intolerances. So, but they go
Yeah. And
hand in hand. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt there. I just
no,
they do go hand in hand, but in the work that we do talk about gentle nutrition, right? But it's always kind of the last step. And I think, the what Beth has been talking about in the training today is all the things to get you started, right? It's like, because these are sometimes we don't get started because we feel like we are stuck in, we're always going to be an overeater, or we're stuck in fearing weight gain. And so once we get over those hurdles, we can then start to explore these other ones as we get
yeah.
closer.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that just briefly, and then I think we need to wrap up. We're coming up on 2 hours, and you guys need to get to your daily lives. And I do too. My daughter and husband are waiting for me to play in the snow. So, but I will also add to that, when I've worked with clients who say they have quote unquote traditional IBS, which are a collection of different symptoms that can be, sometimes attributed to gluten intolerance, when they do this work, their IBS disappears out of nowhere. I've had that happen to more than one of my clients, actually a handful, where they're like, "Oh my gosh, my digestion's improved." And that's because of this mind body connection, this vagus nerve. I'm not going to get into it, but you have a connection between your brain and your gut. So when you heal your relationship with food, you oftentimes see a translation in digestive function. And that's a beautiful thing. Now, I'm not saying you don't have a gluten intolerance. That's not what we're saying, that you're making things up if you feel like you're intolerant to a food. That's where this work is so important, to help you understand what's going on in your body. And if you feel better not being on gluten, by all means, like, don't eat it because, oh, it could be just in my head. Like, honor your body, take care of yourself. I've had periods in my life where I've come off gluten because I feel better. But it's just something, we have to that's more of a medical nutrition therapy question, which is hard to answer in a context like we're here today in a Zoom, because there's a lot more to kind of uncover and help you. That's what a nutrition therapist might do, is help you find alternatives if you truly are gluten intolerant and things like that. So
I
it's
just
not quite.
though that,
Yeah.
Beth, is that I think one little piece to just recognize a little bit is that gluten intolerance became very like hyper, I would say about maybe 10 years ago, well, maybe a little bit shorter, but it really actually became like one of the next best diets, you
Hmm.
know? And I just want to highlight that there are truly some people who have the gluten intolerance, but we now have a lot of things out there that say, if you just stop eating gluten, it's going to change your whole life. And you have to be, it's almost like it's a wellness diet, wrapped up, but that's still actually just a diet. So I just wanted to highlight that for a second as well.
Yeah, it's kind of like Whole30 and Paleo too. I mean, there's definitely merits to the nutritional value of those two eating plans, but when they become emotionally destructive, they lose their capacity for healing. You know what I mean? So I think it's the same thing with the gluten thing. If it becomes so restrictive and you're not, I don't know, it's a fine balance, and that's where working with a therapist or somebody who knows knows this stuff can be really helpful in teasing out the differences between what's going on in your gut and what's going on in your physical body versus what's going on in your mental emotional body. So I know people are dropping off. I know this we can wrap things up, but I just want to sincerely and genuinely thank you for your time today. Like I said, if anybody does want to get on a phone call with me and just discover if the group coaching, I see some of the women in my program are here today. I'm not going to name names, but we do great work in that very safe container. And I'd love to talk to you more about it. No obligation, of course. And if you just want to learn more and you're not already in my Facebook group, jump in there. Mindful and Intuitive Eating for Women. It's a fantastic space just to learn more. I'm getting like 10 to 20 new people joining that group every day. So it's getting a little harder and harder to moderate, but gosh, what a supportive group. So many good conversations in there. So jump over there if you're not there already. All right. Is that good? Everyone good? Clear as mud? You guys have some action steps to take care of yourselves now. Reach out, let me know if you need anything. And I'll do this again in the future as I'm listening and taking notes in the groups and create more powerful trainings for you guys in the future. So, Tammy, you have any last words?
Just thank you for letting me help. Thank you.
Oh, of course. Oh gosh, thank you for letting me help. Thank you for helping me. This was awesome. I'm so glad you were here. All right, guys. Well, have a great afternoon. We'll see you in the groups. Bye.